I would immediately think you had been unemployed for the last 3 years. It's the expectation is we're going to see your career history in order. And as soon as it's not, it's going to confuse the heck out of people. Welcome to Next Job Now,
the podcast where we help you get your next job
right now. Greetings, I'm Greg Langstaff. I'm a certified resume strategist. I've written over 2,000 resumes, and I love helping people get new jobs.
And I'm Jeff. Together, we are going to talk about everything you need to know about landing your next job. In this episode, we talk about building your experience section with badass bullet points. Greg, I know that you've talked about this before, but break it down for us. What is our experience section and its purpose?
It's a list of all of our jobs, and then in under those job titles and such, we are not just describing what we did, but we're positioning our experience in those jobs as relevant to the jobs that we're applying to and impressive to show that we're a high performer.
So how has the experience section changed over the last, let's say, 20 years? And what's that expectation now versus what it was?
Okay, so yeah, back in the day when you and I were writing our first resumes for our summer jobs, what you would do is just write a bullet point list of your responsibilities in each job, and at a time that was probably fine, but because the job market is very competitive now, and because people are just getting better at selling themselves, which is something we're trying to teach you to do here, it's now evolved into those bullet points being used for stories that are relevant to the jobs you're trying to do and really show off skills that you've used successfully and evidence of the success that you've found using those skills.
A couple times on this podcast and through your TikToks, you've mentioned reverse chronological order to list your resume. So why should I list it in that order?
So reverse chronological, just meaning you have your most recent job at the top, and then the job you had before that comes underneath that, the job you had before that comes underneath that, and so on. For one, that's just the natural way of walking through your career history. The person reading this is going to be very, very interested in knowing where were you before? Where were you before that? And it's we're telling the story of our career in a way that's easy for them to follow. And the other reason is it's just resume convention, and an important skill we're showing off when we write our resume is that we can communicate well within the appropriate expectations of the environment we're in. So it's the standard, so you do it that way.
Why not lead with our most relevant role? If I'm a hiring manager and I'm flipping through and the first job I see, it might not be their most recent job, and I can look back and see that they have other experience, but this is what they want to do, and this is their relevant experience, and it matches exactly what I'm looking for. Why isn't that the standard? Why isn't that what people want to see?
I mean, that's going to confuse the heck out of the reader, for one. If you wanted me to know that you were a plumber from 2018 to 2022, but then in the last 3 years you were a software engineer, and you started with plumber at the top, 2018 to 2022, I would immediately think you had been unemployed for the last 3 years. It's the expectation is we're going to see your career history in order, and as soon as it's not, it's going to confuse the heck out of people.
So even though the reader could just look a little bit lower and see, no, I wasn't unemployed, I just was doing other types of work, and now I'm interested in getting back into plumbing, they might only be looking at this for 6 seconds. So as soon as they see that gap, they're not going to spend any more time, or the perceived gap, I can even say.
That's what I'm saying. They might not notice that you had a job the last 3 years.
What if we've been at the same company for several years? Mm-hmm. Whether that is in the same role or maybe some had some promotions in there. how do we list that experience? Are we listing it under one role and just talking about the evolution, or does each job get its own kind of title, overview, bullet point?
Most of the time I like to give each job its own section. It's like its own overview, its own bullet points. The exception to that is like if you say you got promoted into a role that was very similar to your previous role and you kept doing a lot of those responsibilities, but you added a few things, I might combine them at that point and use like the start date of the first role and the end date of the second role and just like squeeze them all into one. I'd use the higher job title when like defining that section. But then in our little overview, which is like the 2 lines we'll put before the bullet points, we would mention like initially hired into this project assistant role and earned a promotion to project manager in September 2019, like taking on responsibility for, etc.
I like that idea of combining. I'm also like a little afraid to combine because it's like I don't want to be misleading that I've been a manager or a like a particular role, but I guess that's what the overview is for.
We come clean in the overview essentially, so it's all right there.
And what about volunteering or part-time jobs? Are we including these? Because like honestly, I think back of my career and there's lots of times that I've held a second job.
Yeah.
Am I including these second jobs?
I mean, it depends if you find that they add to your candidacy. So like when we have a part-time job that's kind of off to the side, it is tricky. It is tricky in a situation where like it can sometimes take away from your full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want people to think that the full-time job wasn't a big deal because we were able to do this other side thing. But like if you have like a full-time job and you do some consulting, you can add that in, or you have a part-time job if you find it's relevant or interesting. Like I had a client not that long ago that was like a very accomplished like artist and had won some like major awards for some pretty cool like types of art. And so what we did is like we listed all his relevant experience, and then we made like a separate section which we called entrepreneurial experience. And because like as an artist, he's kind of, it's like running his art business, and we listed it there. And it's like, firstly, there's some good transferable skills in running your own business, but more importantly, it's like a point of interest, which sets him aside. And then anyone who's reading that is like interested in art might be more likely to pick up his resume, or just like anyone who wants to, it like humanizes you a little bit. So
would you agree with that's the same with volunteering? So if I'm volunteering at my like local community or coaching a soccer team, is that something that's going to be like, oh, he is community driven and or they are out there doing community service, so that separates them from a different candidate? Or is that not adding the value that we think it adds?
I would prioritize volunteer experience usually lower than other experience, put it in its own section most of the time, unless you have like a gap in your experience, and your volunteering is kind of how you're filling your time. So like if you, let's say, had been off for maybe a few years, like caring for young children, elderly parents, what have you, and you were doing like, we were also like the treasurer at your local library. Like we could call our professional experience section experience. And then in that section, kind of describe that volunteer work just like we would a full-time job. And it just sort of fills in the time and the timeline a little bit more.
I mean, a lot of the volunteer work that I've done, whether it was like before my professional career started, like the amount of things that I learned from those things have a lot of value in my professional life. So I feel like I could write a whole section just like in volunteer experience that mirrors everything in my professional experience.
Yeah. And if you're early in your career, first job, or like just sort of getting into the professional landscape, like volunteer experience is sometimes the best stuff you've got. Like we both know from our student council days that like when you come out of school, they care way more about the unpaid student council experience than they do about like your refereeing soccer or whatever it was, like working at Dairy Queen that you were paid for.
Oh yeah, and also just being a student leader, I had a lot more experience with bigger budgets, right? Like I'm working with a student council that has $100,000 budget.
Yeah.
Well, now I can work within that versus like maybe a frontline, my actual student jobs. I didn't have decision-making power. I didn't have that kind of experience that was going to impress anyone.
Yeah.
So not to say I didn't have really cool jobs. I've been pretty lucky in my progression.
What's been your coolest job?
I think planning orientation week at university was wait. I just called that a job. That was volunteer.
There you go.
And here I lump it in because I learned so much from it. Volunteering in my community, which got me a job, which then got me a job.
Yeah.
So
spread that news to all the young professionals out there and the students. That's how you do it.
Oh, I fully believe that. One thing that we haven't really touched on is really diving into the structure of a badass bullet point. So if it's cool with you, I'd love to dive in and learn a little bit more about this.
I would love to. This is my greatest passion.
So Greg, what is a badass bullet point?
Yeah, badass bullet point is a bullet point in your resume underneath like any given job that describes like a very specific accomplishment that you achieved in that job. The idea being we want to show off like a particular skill in action and show how that us using that skill led to a massive win for our employer, usually with like evidence such as numbers, dollars saved, percentage of growth, or like something to that effect that would show like I irrefutably have proven I'm good at this skill.
Is it really that much more valuable to create a bullet point that has numbers, metrics? If I'm applying to a job because I'm a bartender, and you open my resume and you see I was a bartender, I poured pints, stirred martinis, this is what you need. I have that experience.
Yeah.
What's the value of going so much deeper?
Do you know how many people apply to that job that also have poured pints and stirred martinis? You could be very bad at it. You could be too slow. You could be inaccurate. You could be rude to your customers. None of that's covered in there.
Well, you just hit all my points against me. So I got no rebuttal for that. So tell me a little bit more about the structure of a badass bullet point.
Okay. So every badass bullet point.
Can we build one?
Yeah, let's
build one.
Okay. Every badass bullet point contains 3 things. We start with an action verb. This is just, I don't know how to describe it aside from giving you some examples. Coordinated, spearheaded, streamlined, generated. I have so many. And it's just like to get us speaking in that like action-oriented language and to be speaking about ourselves.
Okay, so I pulled an example. An original bullet might say, invoice process improvement with 25% workload reduction. That's missing an action verb.
It is.
So I'm going to add a streamlined invoicing process to reduce administrative workload by 25%.
Yeah, it's just making sure like it's clear that we're talking about something we did.
Next up, you talk about something specific and quantifiable.
Yeah, and specific is key there because I know some people struggle to quantify some things, but like my guideline on how the specificity is like if your bullet point would make sense in anyone else's resume, it is not specific enough for your resume.
What if you don't have specific numbers and details?
And you won't always. And like I want to be clear, not every bullet point has to be a badass bullet point, but the more of them you have, the better you can feel about how you're selling yourself.
Are we worried about confidentiality in this scenario?
That really depends what we're talking about. Like some companies and some roles will have some specifications, and like that is something you do need to know. But most of the time, when I'm talking to my clients, they either have been told explicitly by their employer, like this information is not to be shared, or they're just comfortable sharing it. So the 3 points of the badass bullet point, just so we got them in order, are the action verb, specific and quantifiable detail, and results.
Now, the example that we're going to pull today is another example. Design social media campaigns that generated 2 times growth in web traffic.
Mm-hmm.
But the better version, the badass version,
Yeah.
is designed 3 social media campaigns using influencers, contests, and giveaways. Deployed campaigns on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to generate 2 times growth in web traffic.
Yeah, that's a way better bullet point. That one having a lot more specific detail. A rare mistake is like someone will have the results, but not have like described their work. And like in the second version of that, now we know you have strength in influencer campaigns. We know we have strength across these different platforms. Like it's showing more skills, and that is kind of missing from that first version, but it shows up in the second one.
And what I think is great about this example is a lot of people might be afraid about specific numbers to be like, well, I don't know how much maybe growth in web traffic this campaign generated.
Mm-hmm.
But you might know how many campaigns you ran.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not just saying ran a campaign. Like you can get specific, and you can also dive into the difference between those 2 examples is that you listed the platforms that you're using. Again, information that you do have access to.
Yeah.
So it might not necessarily mean specific doesn't have to be these fancy numbers, percentages, 2x, 10x.
Yeah, although those are great. Actually, can I just say, like, if you don't know the exact numbers, and you want to like hit an accomplishment, we have a few tools for that. And my favorite one is just saying over or plus. So like if you integrated like a new sales strategy, and the boss never came and said like, thank you for this, you increased sales by 43%, but you have a good feeling that like sales definitely went up at least 20%, you can say that like implemented this new program or whatever details you want to add, that which generated like over 20% revenue growth. Like whatever you think is kind of a safe number, that over is us saying like, I don't know the exact number, but I know it was at least this. And so we're not like, committing to a specific number we don't have, but it still lets us put a number in.
Now, I've seen you kind of glow every time I bring up strong action verbs. They seem like your favorite part of a badass bullet point. I know you love numbers too.
Results are my favorite part.
I would love to play a game if you're up for it.
Yeah.
All right. So I am going to say an action verb.
Okay.
And what I want you to do is I want you to blind rank them. I have 6 slots.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Word number 1. Collaborated.
Give me a 5 for that.
Ooh. You're banking that I'm only going up from here. All right. Second word, increased.
Oh yeah. Let's put increased in the number 1 slot, because I know we're getting a dynamite result.
Number 1 slot, you gave it away already.
I've never seen a bad bullet point that didn't start with increased.
All right. Number 3, managed.
Managed is fine. We're just talking about like being responsible for something. I'm going to say 4.
All right. Updated.
Oh no. Because updated is not usually good. I mean, you could be updating processes. Oh, I wish I still had that 4 slot.
I know you do.
I'm just afraid you have like did or something. So I'm going to save the 6 spot. No, updated does not deserve the 3. So I have to put it at 6.
All right. Streamlined.
Oh, thank God. Okay, 2. Streamlined is
Ooh.
2. Because again, it's like streamlined immediately means I made something better and faster.
And then that makes number 3, generated.
Hey, okay. Generated also good. Generated and increased are right up there.
I love that.
Produced value.
You did pretty well for a blind ranking.
I did not. I thought you were going to mess with me.
I feel like
I thought SAT was coming.
Sat in a couple meetings.
I
Full point.
see sat sometime.
Don't include sat. Can you use it in a full sentence?
Sat on 3 committees supporting the development of...
It sounds better. Now moving on to my favorite segment of our podcast, unusual interviews, where we ask each other questions that we hope you never get asked.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, what is a moment in a childhood movie that pulls at your heartstrings?
Oh, man. Probably when in The Sandlot, when James Earl Jones is actually nice to the kids after they've been afraid of him all summer, trying to get that signed Babe Ruth baseball back, and that they kind of tame the beast as well. It's just a nice reveal that like the people who we sometimes are most afraid of were willing to help us all along. Okay, Jeff, my unusual interview question for you is, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
How much would a woodchuck chuck? A woodchuck could chuck wood? A woodchuck would chuck as much wood as he could chuck in 1 hour?
There's not really a time limit, but I like your answer.
That's like an hour activity. If we're spending over an hour chucking wood.
Yeah, I don't want to do that for more than an hour. No. Plus, woodchuck union expectations.
The woodchuck union, it's strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't overwork those guys.
I need my break.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you in the next episode.